upcoming edition of the Cisco Morning Huddle with Coach Brent West. I'm Lee Lewis. We're live here at First Financial Bank on Conrad Hilton, beautiful Cisco, Texas. Thanks for listening in. If you're close by, drop in and have some refreshments. Got cookies, got hot coffee. I didn't see what the temperature was today, but it's plenty hot still. So come on by, have some, and be sure to thank First Financial Bank for sponsoring the weekly edition of the Cisco Morning Huddle. I want to say congratulations to Aaliyah West. She won the big homecoming mom giveaway here at First. I'm sorry, Aaliyah Rose. Yeah, there we go. Sean and Kathy Rose down there in Waverly. Congratulations to her for winning a mug giveaway from First Financial Bank. That was up for a while. I'm not sure. She may need back support to wear that thing as big as it is. She's not a big girl. That was a big mug they gave away, but thanks to them for doing that, and congratulations to Aaliyah. Last week, the Lobos traveled to Nocona. They picked up a weather-shortened win over the Indians as the game was called at the half because of inclement weather. 41-0 was the score at the halftime. Coach West, tell us how everybody felt coming out of the game. I know you were pretty glad to get out of there and be done with it.
Well, we were healthy, and that was the main thing. We came out of it healthy. You're right. There was one part of me that wanted to stay and let some young football players enjoy a second half and get some experience, but we were 2.5 hours away. We wanted to get home and get back to work on Millsap. So it was a good and a bad. We really needed probably some second half work with some younger players, and we didn't get that opportunity. I felt like it would have been extremely good for them. But we did get out of there, and for the most part, we missed the bad weather that hit our cheerleaders on the way up. We had several damaged vehicles from a hailstorm in Bryson, so luckily we missed all of that, got home safely, and healthy.
I'm speaking for the radio crew. We had to stop, I guess it was in Monte, where the county seat was. Evidently a dead tree had fallen across the road, and there was a Ford Mustang that tried to navigate through that. I'm not sure they quite made it out without any damage, but a lot of bad weather. We're just glad everyone got home safe and no more buses or cars were damaged than there were. Just out of curiosity, and because you've been involved in so many football games through the year, what for you maybe are the most memorable weather games spanning your career, maybe as a coach and a player, that you remember?
There's 3 games that will always stand out. The most recent was last year's Spearman. My goodness. We played on a sheet of ice. We call it the Ice Bowl. We were playing Spearman. I was extremely nervous because Spearman is way up north. They're used to that type of weather. They had a run offense, and we felt like we weren't too sure our kids were ready to respond to the elements. Plus, you had to weigh over 200 pounds to punch her through the ice, and we didn't have too many of those guys on our team. But we played well. It was a good experience. We won the game, had no injuries, and were able to ice skate along for a victory. The bad memory that we had was 2007. At one time, I felt like that was the best football team in the state. I really think we had an opportunity to win a state championship that year if we had stayed healthy. We played Canadian in Lubbock. They came down and brought a Blue-tail Northern, and it blew in just about the time their buses pulled up, and their fans were excited when it blew in. And I just remember thinking, this could be trouble. They ran a spread offense. They operated very well in that cold weather, which surprised me, but they were used to it. We were banged up from the week before, really 2 weeks prior with Gunner, and we lost that game in bad weather. That was a bad memory of bad weather, if you recall. That was probably a colder football game because of the wind than what we played Spearman in last year. And then most of you probably remember the Mud Bowl of 2002. That we had to throw all our uniforms away that year and ask at the time our Superintendent Al Porter to buy us some new ones. We just ruined every stitch we had on with the mud. That was homecoming with Holly in 2002, and we call that the Mud Bowl, and still have that on video and occasionally refer back to it. It was a extremely wet and muddy game.
All right, you mentioned health earlier when we were talking about last week. How's it going with everybody? Those that have been injured, showing signs of progress, I guess. Everybody's doing a little better.
We are getting better. Our kids show up every morning to treatment. We have a a free treatment that starts at 7 a.m. with our trainer, Kelly Cozart. They've been very religious in showing up. We feel like we'll have the boys back quickly, but just not this week. And for the most part, we've stayed healthy through a week of practice. We hadn't had any injuries to this point that I know of, which is always a worry homecoming week.
All right, there you have it. First segment of the Cisco Morning Huddle live here at First Financial Bank. Be sure to stop in. Thank the folks here for bringing you this broadcast each and every week. Right now, we're going to take our first break. Downtown Cisco, Texas. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you're having a great day. Coach West, before we get into last night's action with Millsap, I want to talk just for a minute about last week's game in District 238. Last week's games in District 238 Division 2. Eastland picked up a big win in a game that was shortened for them as well at Jacksboro, 34-0. City View got a big win over Millsap, 60-8. Henrietta bounced back from their loss to the Lobos as they beat Holiday. That's kind of a big rivalry there. Henrietta Holiday, 36-2. I'm sure you visited maybe with a few of the coaches during the week. What was the response to last week's action?
Well, there was no surprises as far as who won those games. To me, that was pretty easy to pick. I have been able now to see, I hadn't seen Eastland on video until this week, and also Wichita Falls City View. Extremely talented offenses that fly around, also defensively. Eastland reminds me so much of us on defense. They fly around, they do their jobs, they're well disciplined. City View, on the other hand, has great speed offensively. 4 of the best weapons in the district. I can see why they score so many points. And obviously 2 very good football teams that we haven't played yet. So this was the first week I've actually been able to witness them on video. I've talked to Coach Watkins a couple of times already this week in preparing for City View for next week. And he says they are extremely fast, and I believe him after watching video. And, by the way, congratulations to Cliff Watkins. He's had a new child this week. I'm sure he's had tons of sleep. He's fired up for tonight's ball game.
Yeah, congratulations to them, definitely. Last night, turn the topic here a little bit. Junior high teams and JV teams pitched another shutout, second time this year. A lot of good action last night. Talk a little bit about what you saw from the kiddos on Thursday night.
Well, I traveled to Millsap, wanted to see our JV in action, and they played very well. We started Seth Allen at quarterback, and he's recovered from a broken collarbone, so he's been out since the Albany week. Got his first start at the JV level last night and played very well. Ran the ball well, read the veer and midline well. He threw some rockets. He's got a great arm. He's out of shape. We both giggled about that at halftime. He just hasn't been in action, but he did a great job executing the offense. I felt like our defense obviously did a good job getting a shutout against that SWAT team, and made it back for the 8th grade game, the 4th quarter. Both groups played very well. I believe the 7th grade won 40-0 and the 8th grade won 30-0.
So lots of good action last night as far as those guys do. Looks like you lost a few maybe to grades or injuries or something in the 8th grade group. They seemed a little fewer on the sidelines.
We are a little thin, have a few not eligible, have a few with some minor injuries, but hopefully we'll have them back next week.
All right. Talking about JV, you moved up a few guys for tonight's game. Is there a chance some of these guys start to take on roles maybe as you get closer to the playoffs? Not necessarily starters, I'm saying, but are going to be able to fill in and maybe give some guys some breaks in key situations?
Well, we certainly hope so. We've been into some preseason games where we took one backup lineman to Wall, Texas, which is just about unheard of. We've had some injuries there, and we need some sophomores to step up and do some things for us, and not just in the O-line and D-line positions, but we're very thin at the linebacker position, in the secondary, and the running backs. We just are simply thin due to injuries, so we need some help. I do not care to move up sophomores unless they're getting tons of playing time, and we hope to give them that opportunity today, and hope that when we do that, we don't fall off, but we just keep rolling.
I know that last week you guys were hoping, as you mentioned earlier, to get some of those guys in a little more since the JV didn't get to play last week. Really, the only one that really stood out to me, and maybe it was just because he had a turnover, was Robert Bell was able to get a fumble recovery, and it looked like he got in on a few tackles.
He did. He's very disciplined, and he's playing some defensive end for us. He's also our only backup guard right now for our varsity O-line. So he's having a dual responsibility, and he's having to catch on quickly. We're a little more complicated, especially offensively, than on the JV, and he's had a little bit of a learning issue there. He's caught on very quick though, but he's not just having to be the backup right guard, he's having to be the backup left guard. And that sounds simple enough until you line up and actually have to do that. It's a little more complicated than it sounds. And he's done a wonderful job. But definitely somebody that we're not afraid at all to get Bailey Edwards off the field at the defensive end. We feel he's a 6'2", 180-pound, pretty good body out there that we feel like can do a pretty good job for us there.
Those guys, I'm sure it's pretty intimidating for them to step up to the varsity. Is there any consolation maybe that Silas had to do that a couple of weeks back, and maybe he's the bell cow maybe for those young guys that come up?
Well, Silas had a tougher challenge because he has to touch the ball every single down, and he had to do it against Henrietta, one of the better teams in the district. So he had to step right into the frying pan on Friday night. But he's got some games under his belt, and we're expecting good things from Silas tonight.
Seems like I think we had maybe one bobble snap last week. I don't remember a fumble except for when the JV guys were in.
Very first play, we fumbled the snap.
Okay, all right.
Then from that point on, it went pretty well, with exception to we brought that JV group in. I think Case, who hadn't been taking too many snaps from Silas, fumbled that one.
But overall, that whole thing seems to be getting a little better.
It's better, but we still have our fingers crossed. I'm certainly not going to say it's good yet.
Right. Okay. Well, we don't want to give them too much credit then, because they still have to earn it. But it does seem to be progressing, and that's got to give you a little hope going forward.
It does. You're exactly right. Nothing worse than fumbling snaps and wasting plays, and it's frustrating. And you have to have patience with that, and I'm one of those coaches that had very little patience. So I'm having to bite my tongue and lip for the last 3 weeks. But I've learned. I have learned a little bit. Maybe Grady West has taught me a thing or two over the years. No, he never bit his tongue.
Forget all of that. I guess it's kind of hard as we finish up this segment. You guys, I wouldn't say like last year, but more recently have gone to a lot more shotgun snaps than say in previous years. And the timing with that stuff really does affect how your offense runs, because everything is so on time, and it's got to be that way for you guys to execute the way you do. It's a big deal. It really is a big deal.
Well, you can't run any gun reads if that snap is off at all. And that's something, one reason we get into the gun is, and we've learned over the years that if we can read some things out of that gun, and it's pretty much, it complements what we do from under center. We're not changing the play a whole lot. We're reading for the most part the same people. It's just out of a different formation in a spread look. But you're right. If that snap is off just a little, you can throw out some of the dog sweeps that we do in any of those reads. And that was a problem against Henrietta for sure. We lose some drives because of a bad snap, and because we couldn't read and the timing was completely off.
But it's getting better. It's not good, but it's getting better. All right, there you go. I appreciate it. Right now it's time for us to take our second break. Cisco, thank you for sponsoring us each and every week. Coach West, it's that time of year. Homecoming comes around every year. It's been a little bit different week. It always is, because there's so many different activities going on. It kind of throws everybody out of their regular routine. I know it's most coaches, it's kind of typical for them to get a little worried about the distractions during the week because of all the activities that are taking place that are outside your normal work week. But share your thoughts with everyone about how all of that is handled here at Cisco High School, and what does it mean to you to be involved? Maybe you're not heavily involved, but certainly you're involved because you're part of the school system with it through all the years that you've been here.
Well, Mr. Kent, being our principal and an ex-football coach, basketball coach, understands that homecoming can be a problem for a team. And he does everything he can to exclude, I guess, the football team. And I give the same old speech every single year. You know, this homecoming is not for the football team. It's not for you guys. It's for your parents. It's for your grandparents. It's for those exes to come in and see you play on Friday night. And the only fun homecoming is one in which you step out on the field and execute, be disciplined, and find a way to win the game. And if we don't have good practices this week, that might not get accomplished. So stay in tune, stay focused. It's just another game for us, and forget about all the little activities and things that are going on. And if you want to have a bad attitude about that, that's okay. Just focus. And I think our boys are pretty good at that. There's been several years, you know, we have some that get too caught up in it. And you'll see the results, I think, on Friday night when that happens. But we've had some pretty good practices this week. I think, for the most part, have stayed focused, with maybe one exception to yesterday. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday workout was very, very good. What we've been wanting to see. Yesterday's workout was a little bit lackadaisical after school.
You guys, as a coaching staff, y'all are kind of on the periphery, maybe a little bit involved in some of the things that happen, but you guys ever just sit around and talk about what's happening as far as the activities go?
No, we do not. we're ready for those activities to be over. We're too busy. We've got other things going on. And, there's videos to break down, and you know, my coaches also teach classes, so it really sometimes becomes a nuisance for them if they have to be involved. Our study halls, we actually lose those during homecoming week, and that is a kind of a vital preparation time for my coaches. So when they get too involved, it causes them to have to work more even after hours. So we're not real fun fans of the homecoming activities.
So it's a distraction on many personal levels then.
Yes, it is.
All right, being homecoming, just out of curiosity, heard from any of the guys from teams past, maybe they're going to be in town tonight, or wanted to drop by and say hello?
I have not, but they will usually come find us on the sideline, and we obviously love when they come down. Mason Reed showed up the other day, as well as Colton Ken, Vernon and Owens, who are all playing football, on Saturdays right now for some colleges. And those kids coming down and spending some time on our sideline and saying a few things to our boys, that means more than anything I can tell our team. Our team's tired of hearing from me. But when Mason Reed and Colton Kent, Vernon Owens show up, and many of those exes of past years say a little word to them on the sideline, it means much more, and the motivation is much better. So we encourage that. We want to see them here.
All right, after a little bit of stubbing their toes, so to speak, a few weeks back, and you kind of hinted on this already, you've always talked about how important you feel like it is for a team to get better every week as they progress through the season. That week at Henrietta, I mean, you made no bones about it. We didn't do very well that week. Last week seemed to be a little bit better, I think you said, at the end of the week. And you just said it seemed like practices this week were something that maybe the team's working a little harder to get better at.
It's been a good week. Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday were very good. We executed offensively with very few mistakes. That we have a practice that we'll call it the Trail of Tears. We will come out and we'll run for their mistakes on offensive execution, whether it be a bad snap, an incomplete pass, a penalty, or whatever it may be. And we have been doing that much, much better. That Henrietta week, you're right. In fact, I didn't do it that week because we'd still be running for the mistakes. But
and that was called what? The Trail of Tears?
Trail of Tears.
Okay.
It's not a fun day. But it was pretty good this week. We actually executed that very, very well, and flew around defensively. Yesterday, I went on to Millsap yesterday. The Thursday practice is after school. We get the bulk of that done during the period on Thursdays, and it's, for the most part, a walkthrough with a 2-minute drill. But after school is a walkthrough, usually with Coach Brunson, a defensive walkthrough. And from what I understand, we were not taking care of business. Coach Brunson spent the next 45 minutes in a conditioning period. We're probably sore this morning. We could care less about it.
I think I heard something about that.
The workout would have taken 5 minutes. I mean, sometimes it's 10 minutes. You know, we go through a walkthrough, and we didn't take it very serious. And Coach Brunson got even, and it took 45 minutes of pain and suffering before we could pay attention for 5. And if that's what we have to do, we'll do that. And I think the boys are understanding of that. I bet next Thursday goes a whole lot better.
All right. Tonight, you guys have a Millsap team that it's kind of been a roller coaster ride, I think, for them this year, looking from the outside in. They won 3 straight games going up to their bye, and then since district has started, they've been on the downside, going 0-3 so far. What do you guys see on film? I know they're big. I mean, they're a good-looking football team, at least from seeing them on film. What do you guys expect?
They are very big. Just speaking on their defense, their 2 defensive tackles are 285 and 275. You know, to put a little perspective in that, that's 110 or 120 pounds heavier than the center that we're going to have to use to block them. So that could be a problem as far as movement goes. Now, our advantage is we feel like we're a lot faster than they are. They don't move as well as the Lobos do. But they are well coached. They run our defense. They run a 31 look out of a 4-3 with 9s to the tight end side. They will play some games on the tight end side. Occasionally, you'll see a 6 or a 7 technique. They'll bring Mike to the strong side A gap quite a bit. Looks like they base out of a cover 2, some cover 4. But we may not get that. We certainly didn't get what we worked on last week with Matona. So we'll see. But they are well coached. They know what they're doing. They haven't had the speed at times to stop the big play. So we need to put together some big plays tonight. Offensively, they run something we haven't seen in a while. The old slot T, a little bit of a wing T look at times. They run the buck sweep, they run the trap, the dive, and the blast. You know, East Bernard made this offense pretty famous a few years ago when they won a state championship out of it. Last year, Hamilton ran that against us. Made that trip to Hamilton. You know, we had some troubles with it, the difficulty stopping that. They ran that inside smash the way we run it. They ran it very well, but we couldn't stop them for less than 4 yards at times. So it can be a very difficult offense to stop, and it's one we haven't seen all year long.
All right, should be interesting tonight. Lobos and Bulldogs will tee it up at 7:30 here. It is homecoming 2014. I'm sure a lot of folks will be traveling in. Want to wish everyone safe trips and have a good time this weekend with all the homecoming gatherings that might be taking place. Coach West, appreciate it again. Good luck tonight. I know everybody's excited because it's homecoming and the Lobos having a great season again this year. Be sure to stay tuned. We'll be on KWBY Radio 98.5 tonight. Pregame starts at 7. The kickoff will be at 7:30. You can